We are live. And hello, and everybody, and welcome to the Bassin Magazine podcast. Bassin Magazine, the official
Hey,
magazine of the Weekend Angler. My name is Jay Angel. I'm here with Brad from Bassin Magazine, and with us tonight we have the distinct pleasure of having Damian Thao. Damian is from California, which I think is very interesting. Damian's also a kayak angler, and he's been a very successful competitive kayak angler. We're going to talk about that all. We got all that in store for you tonight, folks. How you doing tonight, Damian?
I'm doing great. How are you guys doing?
Doing great.
good. Appreciate you being on. I
Thank
know
you guys
it's
for having me.
big time change, so it's kind of schedules get wiry. So pretty good. I'm glad. I appreciate you being here.
Thank you guys.
Well, wait till I have our first guest from Hawaii.
Oh yeah,
That'll be fun.
there is bass in Hawaii, so
There are bass in 49 of our states.
that's right. Alaska's the only one. Damien, did you
No.
know that? Alaska's the only one that doesn't have a bass, a largemouth or a smallmouth.
I did not know that.
I lived up there for a couple years. I actually missed bass.
See, I told you he lived everywhere.
I have. I can't stay put. Just I see fish over there and I want to go.
Yep.
So Damien, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna ask, hey, how's the weather and how's we've already started here in the central. There's been 2 Hobie events that's already been going on. The third one's was last weekend, I guess. Have you guys started your season yet? What do you got going on?
Yeah, our season already started in February. A lot of the trails had already started a little bit earlier, and I believe our first event was the California Bass Nation event Lake Shasta, and that was also in conjunction with Wild West Bass Trail. So it's 2 events on one day,
Yeah,
and
yep.
it was a 2-day event, and we ended up fishing that one in February.
Wow. Water temperature in Shasta? What was?
It's a high 40s. I believe it was high 40s.
Yeah, man.
Ooh, well, like way pre-spawn.
Yeah, you were still catching them out in 60 feet, 50 feet, and you can still catch them in 3 feet.
Yeah.
So they're all over the place. They're up in the shallows and out in the deep, huh?
Yeah, that's the thing about fishing these deep clear reservoirs. You can find deep and shallow fish all year long. It just depends on finding it depends on what the quality fish are doing. Sometimes they're all up shallow, sometimes they're still out deep. Uh, there's a lot of things you can do to catch these fish, and you got to really fish your strength, honestly.
So how would you target fish in 60 feet of water?
Most of the time I am throwing. A lot of times I throw a lot of Carolina rig on these fish because a lot of these fish aren't actually on the bottom. They're actually kind of suspended. So I would fish a Carolina rig with a 7 to 8 feet leader, and really try to draw these suspended fish to come look at it. Because when you throw it on these suspended fish with the Garmin Panoptics, you can actually see these fish follow your weight down, and they'll stop, and then they'll follow your bait down. Once the sinker hits the bottom, your bait will actually change its course. When your sinker hits the bottom, the bait will actually change course, and that's when they'll hit it as soon as it changes course.
Wow.
Is that real light line? How are you feeling that bite?
Oh, I throw it on a tungsten, so you can feel it pretty well. And a lot of times these fish, when you throw it onto them, when it hits the bottom, you can pretty much predict when the bite's gonna come. So you just pick up on it, and the fish will be there already.
Well, so you're using live scope, right?
Yes, I am. I'm using
Okay.
Garmin Live Scope.
Are you counting down on 1 second per foot? So you're waiting a minute to hit 60 feet.
No, actually, you can just see on the live scope just going down.
Yeah,
You see everything go. You see everything that's going on over there. You see what the fish are doing out there, and
For the weekend angler guy though, that's going out there new. He sees this podcast. He wants to go out to Shasta. He's right there. How can he go? He can hit 60 feet of water from the bank. I've been there. I know how sharp the drop offs are. But how's he know when he's there?
oh man, you just. That's a pretty hard question to answer because you just throw it out there and hopefully it's 60 feet and just pick up on it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if you're using spinning gear, you just leave you throw it out and you leave your bail open, and it will fall straight down. I mean, I'm not going to tell you how you're going to feel a bite on the way down. but
Just hold your rod.
yeah, because I fished in the Great Lakes that way, in 60 feet of water from the shore.
Our lakes aren't even 60 feet deep here, so.
No.
I mean, there's some spots. I'm kidding. I'll get slack for that, but there are.
Well,
but
around where I live, you're lucky to get 10 feet.
Yeah, absolutely right.
In the Atchafalaya Basin, or Lake Henderson.
Now, Damian, when you're doing that, are you casting or are you long lining where you're letting it out and pedaling while you're letting line out?
I'm casting.
You are casting.
Yes.
Okay.
And most of my bites, I'm predicting they're gonna come on the fall. So I cast it out, and then I'll check up on it, and I'll work it real quick, really aggressive, and I'll cast it out and look for these suspended fish.
Okay.
Really, that's these suspended fish are less targeted. So once you get on them, they're a little better quality fish.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
So you have fish out there in California that aren't targeted very. Man, if you could find those, geez, no wonder you win kayak tournaments.
They're very elusive, but when you do find these wolf packs that are out suspended, you find your spots that your community holes, right?
Yes.
You got your deep island tops or your humps out there, or your big flats with standing timber. You generally find those areas, but these fish will come in and out from time to time, but they will be sitting really far off, especially if it's really pressured. They will be out there, and you just keep scanning until you find them. You'll find maybe 5 or 6 of them together, and these will be generally your better quality fish. And if you get one of them, it'll be worth that 1 hour looking for them.
Wow.
Now when one of them bites, does it fire up to school where you can cast right back and catch another one, or do they scatter?
That's a good question, because every lake, it seems like it's different for every lake that I've noticed. Some lakes you can hook into one, you reel them in, they're all around you, and they're just fired up, and you can drop anything down to catch them. Sometimes when it's very pressured, you'd catch one and they just scatter, and then you'd have to look for them or let it settle, and then some of them will start coming back.
I see.
Brad brings up a good point there, because like if it's a smallmouth bass bite, I've actually fished for open water smallmouth, and I mean, you're bringing one in, and there's 6 of them trying to grab that rattle trap out of its mouth. It's one of the most exciting things you can possibly imagine in fishing.
With the Garmin Panoptics, I've noticed when you do catch one of those fish, and since we're fishing kayak, right, it's a catch, picture, and release. And what I did notice is when you take a picture and you release that fish actually takes all those fish with him when he's running away or you're going to the bottom. He drags all those fish with him, and then your school is gone.
Wow.
Well, maybe you should start, keeping those. I'm just kidding, guys.
Use a striper arm where you got a bait out here and you got a bait way out here, so you wouldn't be able to cast it, but.
No, but geez. So that fish comes back and it tattles on you.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
Guys, there's something fishy going on around here. We got to get out of here.
Right? He's like, follow me, guys. We got to get out of here, right?
No wonder we put fish in the live well for so many years.
Yeah, they're in school because they're smart. They know.
I had no idea fish were so dirty, man.
So that Shasta was your first event. Where's your next event? What's your plans for?
So my next event is gonna be the Kayak Pro Tour that's coming up. That's new. So we are fishing that pretty soon up here, and then after that we are fishing the Yakubass event on Lake Berryessa. That one's gonna be a fun one. It's gonna be a full blown spawn bite, and that one's gonna be pretty fun. Yeah, a lot of big fish in Lake Berryessa.
Now, can you sneak up on the bass on their beds a lot easier with kayaks?
Oh yeah, you could definitely. I've had times when you come up on them and they just come up and check on you, or you fire up the hydro wave. You'll see them come straight to the hydro wave and look at your speaker, and you can really just work on them.
Wow, you use one of those hydro waves, Brad?
Oh yes, I
yeah. It's not. I don't have it on the kayak. It's in a box.
Okay.
I have one. It's not on there.
So why don't you explain to our weekend anglers what a hydro wave is, Damian?
Yeah.
So the hydro wave is It's a tool you can use that you can electronically trigger fish or manipulate the fish to get to bite. So it's basically a speaker, and you can control what kind of sounds you emit through it. So if, for example, if you're on offshore fish and you got schooling bait fish, and there's a school of fish around, right? You can actually get these fish to start busting on them, or you can even bring them to the surface, and your schooling fish will follow these fish up to the surface. So if you play surface bait fish, right? You're gonna get all these bait fish start coming to the surface, and then you start throwing a walking bait, a Dural's pencil 110 or whatnot, and you can really get these fish to grab it because they're already expecting there's gonna be bait above them, and you can get these fish to pull up. One of the cool things was I've noticed when I was first using it is I was fishing around timber, right? And standing timber, and I'm in 50 feet of water, and the timber is that the top of it's 30 feet, but you can see fish around the bottom and on the stump. You play surface bait fish, you play it loud enough, these fish will start to move up the limbs and go up to the very tip of it, and you can get these fish to bite once they're up there.
Wow.
That's neat. And then you're watching it on Panoptics also, so
Right.
you know what's going on and what's happening.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really cool. You can really use it to electronic to really trigger fish, or it doesn't work all the time, but it when I say that is because a lot of people think it's magic, what it really isn't. But uh, it definitely helps you get that one more bite when you do need it. And the one bite can probably be a 12-incher that will help you in a kayak event to get a limit, or it can be one bite and be an 8-pounder. One bite is a big difference for the kayak world. So uh, having a
Yeah.
hydro wave does come in really handy when you do need it.
Sometimes in the boat world, that one bite will make all the difference. There have been tournaments when I wish I could get that one bite too.
Right.
That's just fishing, man.
Well, Jay, you ask, can you sneak up on a spawning fish a lot easier in a kayak? I have dual power poles on my kayak. It just like a boat has dual powers. Damian, I don't know. Do you have a power pole? Do you have dual?
I have one power pole.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It helps because you can get up on a bass on a bed, you can power pull down, and you can sit and work on that fish where you're not really spooking it off as much as when you're in a boat. So, and if you're putting a hydro wave on them, you're really irritating that bass in that bed. The hydro waves, I guess the technology started with striper fishing. Striper guides will take say the butt of a net and just pound it like that on the bottom of the boat, and you can watch. Knocked off my Facebook live feed. You can watch the stripers on your graphs come up to the boat or to where your bait is or whatever by pounding on the bottom of the boat like that. So Hydrowave made a sound, and then they broke out into the bass market and the saltwater market and that sort of stuff with different bait fish and different sounds.
Wow. My dad always told me when I was growing up and we had those aluminum boats, don't do that. Don't do that.
Yeah. It's amazing that striper will come up like that.
Yeah, it is. I never knew that. Thank you for telling us that, Brad.
Yeah, it's a pretty neat invention. It's a company that TH Marine bought, but you can get a Hydrowave at TH Marine now. So, and they ought to look in. I listen to my phone, listen to the radio or whatever, but I always catch a fish when the Eminem song comes on. So they might look into that and see if Eminem has something to do with catching fish.
Or maybe Eminem just makes them mad.
Right.
So Damian, why don't you tell us? You've won a few kayak bass tournaments, haven't you?
Yes, I have.
How many have you won?
Honestly, I think on the Tourney X app, I think it might be shown about 10 to 12 events I've won. But
congratulations, great.
Oh, thanks. Thank
wow,
you.
That's really quite a career, man. See, weekend bass anglers, man, we can learn things from this guy. Because out there in California, I mean, it's a whole different ball game. But man, if we can catch fish out there, we can come back here and apply what we've learned. Wow. So so you like to use deep cranks?
Yes, I do. I love throwing deep cranks. Definitely my favorite technique to be throwing around is a deep crank.
And what is your specific deep crank that you?
Mine's
like to
is is going to be a Dual Realis G87. This is going to be a 20A.
Ooh,
Definitely my favorite one to throw. Very this
look
this
at that
color will
color,
catch them
man.
everywhere. Yeah, this color will catch them everywhere. I
Shad,
throw this
yeah.
one all the time. I also throw the Red Tiger as well. This is one I've been the most successful with. This is a 15A. I actually ended up
Is that
winning
a
an event.
pre-spawn color for you?
Yeah, it is. I actually ended up winning an event with this. I ended up catching 30 pounds just with this crank,
So you're in
and it
the
was
Dirty 30 Club?
yeah, and it, catching 30 pounds on it. And what it was the thing about this bait was really unique to me. That was when I started throwing it. Was that the things you get this thing to do is pretty amazing. That sets it aside from other cranks. You know, it's the way how the bill is shaped, the tip on the lip right here.
So that
Yeah.
hold it up if you don't mind.
Oh,
So
yeah. So if you can see it has
yeah,
a
see
little
how it
slant
curves?
right
Oh,
there.
look, it's
Yes.
like, yeah, scooped.
Yes. And for me, what I've noticed is that when you're fishing around, if you don't even have structure, you're fishing bare bottom. So a lot of our lakes here, we do have a lot of deep flats, and we fish. And these fish are not around structure; they're just laying flat on they're just belly rubbing on the bottom. And what you do is
Okay.
you throw this through and you reel it down. You let it hit the bottom. It's not like your traditional style deep crank where the harder you rip it, the harder it digs, right? So when you rip it, the tip of it is gonna catch, so it'll allow it to deflect off. So basically, you don't need a hard bottom or any. You just need it to touch something for it to deflect. And you can get these fish to trigger and grab this rather than needing a hard surface to fish around. And yeah, this thing, you can go behind if there's a deep crank bite, and some guy goes through with a different deep crank, you come through with this, you will catch a lot of fish behind a different the angler, just because you're giving it something different to see. And if you're fishing hard bottom, or you're fishing a say big boulders, right? What this bait will you can get this bait to do is when it hits a structure, you can get it to not deflect off. You can get it to roll around it, slide around it, and you kill it. And when you kill it, that allows the bait to see it, and they will pin it. It's already pinned, so they can grab it. They don't need it to deflect up to go and grab it. It's giving them something different to see, and I think that's what gets me a lot of the bites is when you reel it through and you feel it roll around and kill it. This fish will be there, and it's already pinned. They're gonna grab it. They don't need to work hard to go out and hit it. That's one thing I really like about the G87.
Yeah, and that's Duo Realis. It's G87, right?
Yes.
Okay, that's what it is. Yeah, and how deep does that dive with that big
This
bill?
they have both the 15A. This is the 15A, and they have the 20A. And I throw these both on 12-pound Sunline FC Sniper, and you can get the 20A to get about around 30, a little bit over 30 feet. Yeah, you can get it down
Jeez.
really deep.
Yeah,
And then the
That's with a
15A,
voracious long cast, isn't it?
yeah, this thing can bomb really far.
yeah. The
For
way that a lot of duo baits are weighted, like I throw the lipless version, the Vibe. That's what I is it Vibe?
Yeah,
Is it okay? The Apex Vibe, whatever. Is that what it's
yeah,
called?
yeah. It's
Okay.
a newer one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes. Yes. And the way that the weight's in there, they tend to help you launch further, and there's less wobble, so you're not picking up all this wind. It's a straight line, and man, you can really cast a lot of those baits like that far
yeah.
because of the way they're weighted.
That bait's a really incredible bait. It's the one you're talking about. It has such a fast response time, so you can really creep down the bottom, and it's just grabbing bottom, and it's still thumping. You
Yeah,
know,
it's my
it's
favorite. It's one of my favorites.
it's supposed to be a secret, guys.
Secret, yeah. If you want to keep something secret, you do not tell an outdoor communicator because we have big mouths, man.
Right. Yeah, it's Doc Talk. It's not.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's Doc
no,
Talk, yeah.
it's one of my go-to. It's a confidence bait to me. That's all it is. So I mean, I've done well with it, and it's a confidence bait. So
So with those crankbaits, Damian, are you just casting those out and just reeling them in, or are you putting any kind of
No,
are you
I
imparting
I
any action to it?
I don't typically just cranking them in. I'm really fishing these really aggressive, really burning it, and really giving it a lot of stop and goes, really popping it really hard to trigger these fish. Everybody's throwing a deep crank, and you got to be a little different from the crowd. that's the thing with the G87. You get it to do a lot of different things, especially if you know the structure around. You can get it to do a lot of things that you can't do with your traditional style deep cranks. Uh, the cool thing about it for me is that when you're fishing out a kayak, your deep cranks have such a big bill when you're reeling it down. It has so much drag, right? uh
Yes.
you're constant on a kayak when you're reeling it down. It has so much drag. You're and it's pulling you towards your bait. So this is you, right? And this is the bait. When you're reeling it in, you're both coming together in the center, and you're missing the fish on the strike zone. And
Right.
with this G87, it doesn't have a lot of drag, so it goes straight to the bottom, and you spend more time on the bottom or in the strike zone. Uh,
Wow.
yeah,
So what kind of rod are you using with these?
I throw it on a Power Endurance 711C 711. Yeah,
Is that a glass rod?
It's it.
it I think it's a glass composite. I won't say it's not a full glass. I don't think.
Medium fast.
Yeah,
Yeah, for crank. That's,
yeah,
that's, that's
And
people are like, "Oh, you're in a kayak. You need short rods." It's really not about short rods. I love my 711s because I can cast far. I'm not spooking fish, so I totally get that. You're getting long casts with that rod. You're getting down to the bottom. You're digging. Do those suspend so you come around a tree and stop it like you said, or roll around? Does it suspend or does it start to float?
it starts to float.
It does. Okay.
Right.
Okay. And are you using a reel with a slower retrieve, or I know you
Yeah,
said you like to burn it.
yeah. I do like to burn it, but I still throw it on a 5 gear ratio. I throw it on a Abu Garcia Revo. What is that? Abu Garcia winch,
Yeah.
and that's the
Yeah.
one I've been throwing it on, and it's been doing me well. I just work it a lot more faster by just cranking it a lot more faster, and
That's another reason I need to get long casts because I'm telling you, those. Am I wrong? That is my favorite reel. That is the best reel. I can cast 100 yards with it. I don't. I mean, they cast. They are set right. I mean, and Jay, you pick up somebody else's bait caster, you backlash it because it's somebody else's. These reels are really not sensitive to the next person. They can pick it up and cast it and still cast far and not bait cast. It's they're great reels. I'm not pushing anybody, but I'm saying
Okay.
I think I can get Damian's boat, just fish with his stuff and be at home.
Yeah. I think we should all go out in Damien's kayak and
Right.
fish with his stuff. And that
What
was a
kind of
big help,
kayak?
Damien. Thank you.
What kind of kayak are you fishing out of?
I'm fishing out of a Hobie Pro Angler 14 360.
We'll fit. We're good.
Yeah.
I'll get on the crate cooler in the back. We'll be all right.
Yeah. We can borrow Brad's Torpedo and
Do you have Torpedo?
I do. I run both the Torpedo and the Motor Guide XI3 on the front.
Oh, okay, cool. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Is the circuits that you're fishing, do they allow trolling motors, or you got to take that off if you fish just certain events, or?
So right now they currently all allow trolling motors, but
Yeah.
Wild West and California Bass Nation is allowing for you to use two motors, so you can run the Torpedo in the back and the Motor Guide in the front, as long as
Oh
you
wow.
don't exceed the weight capacity.
You're waking back. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Because it's not even a tournament deal at that point. It's Coast Guard, right?
Right. Yes. Yes.
So, yeah. Yeah. I think there's just one major no trolling motor tournament trail right now.
Yes.
So yeah, Torpedo's done an amazing job. That thing's really good. And there's a couple new. There's a Bixby and there's another one out in California. I can't think of the name. I got a press release on it. But the electric motors are really starting to branch out and be made for kayaks and small boats. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's neat. You're running both of them.
wow. So I bet that kayak goes pretty fast then.
It does. It's yeah. It does. When you look at it on a boat perspective, it's pretty slow. But when you're racing guys, it's pretty fast.
That's right. When you're racing other kayaks.
Yeah.
So do you have to use a lithium battery then to run both of your trolling motors?
The Torpedo has its own battery, and
Okay.
yes, and then but I'm running a Bioino 100 amp for my Motor Guide, and then for my electronics, I run a separate battery as well.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Boy, so you probably do have lithium batteries because I mean, if you had all those batteries, and man, that's got to be heavy.
Yeah, every battery I have on the boat is a lithium. Yes.
Okay, I could not believe it when I picked up the first lithium battery. I'm like, my goodness, no wonder this thing costs $1,000. I mean, it weighs 25,000. That's it. You got to love that,
Yep. Yep.
particularly if you're a kayak angler.
Right. I mean, if you're carrying how many trips down to the truck from the, down to the kayak from the truck back and forth. Yeah. So Barry S is coming up. That'll be a great tournament. Some big fish will be caught there.
Yeah, a lot. It's gonna be a great event. A lot of big fish are gonna be caught, and you know, and it's set up just right. We had a few cold fronts come through, and we had some rain come through, which is really nice because we definitely need it. And yeah, it's gonna be really good. It's gonna be a really good bite.
So could a guy drive there, enter the tournament, and be able to compete, or does he have to know the lake and be there pre-fishing?
Oh no, you can come up and compete. Yeah, you don't need to know the lake. You you just show up, and a lot of it's weird because a lot of times when that happens, those guys generally do very good.
They do very
It's
good,
because
right?
the reason why I say this because a lot of anglers are stuck doing the same thing over and over. But when somebody new comes in and fish that body of water, they present something new, and they can
Yeah,
get a lot of bites that are different.
Yes, they have no preconceived notions of where the bass should be.
right.
So,
I was talking to someone here at Red Crest, and they're like, "Well, where do you fish around here?" Well, I don't really like to fish around here. Tulsa, Oklahoma is very rich in the bass industry. There's a lot of companies here. Jay and I've talked about this before, but we have Grand Lake of the Cherokees. There are 7 major lakes within an hour of any direction. There are 25 to 35 kayak lakes within an hour of any direction. Where do I want to fish? I want to not fish here because I fish what you're saying, the same spots. Oh, I caught a fish here 10 years ago. I know I can catch another fish here. Whereas an angler goes to a new lake and they have a different perspective because they go and they figure it out and then they start fishing instead of having that mindset of, well, I caught a fish here 10 years ago. There's got to be another one.
I'm going to go on my milk run now. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. So that's interesting. How many people do you think will enter that kayak tournament?
They this trail Yakabas usually breaks around 100 anglers.
That's excellent. That's
Usually
great.
breaks around 100 anglers.
Good, good, good. Do you know a website for the listeners that they can see that?
It's gonna be you can find their pages Yakabas. They on Facebook they usually post up tournaments up, and they have the trail is pretty they run some really good lakes. We go to Clear Lake, especially for we do Clear Lake, we do Barrios, we do a lot of these fun lakes. We just had an event not too long ago, Lake Oroville, and
Okay.
yeah, that was just I would say 2-3 weeks ago. We fished Lake Oroville. That was my first time fishing it too. I've never been there. That was a fun lake to fish.
So
Yeah.
what did you say that Facebook page was?
Yakabas,
YAKA?
YAK dash A dash BASS.
So the reason I was asking all this, I was leading up to, we talked to 2 apex anglers last week or 2 weeks ago, but how much driving they're doing. They're pulling a bass boat. They're fueling up all this way. Granted, we're fueling up to drive all this way, but we're just taking a kayak. So how far are you traveling? Just you. How far are you traveling to go fish different kayak tournaments from where you are in California?
Shoot. So basically, every event I'm driving up to about 4 hours to compete, and yeah, pretty much 4 to 5 hours is usually the around the amount of hours I'd be driving to fish to compete, and yeah, and every weekend is a tournament, so it's not like you're going to practice. You just go up and show up and
Right,
fish. So
right.
Well, we have a comment, a guy named MC Norris, who's the founder of Fishing for Autism. He says 100 live kayak anglers in a tournament fishing. He said that's a great turnout.
Yeah, that is a great turnaround. That's great.
Okay. So I'm sorry, I didn't mean to break the conversation there.
No, no, you're good. He's right. That's great. There's 11 live watching, but no comments. Does anybody have any questions on Bass and Facebook? If you do, type it. I can see it, I think. So.
Yeah, if anybody has any questions for me or Brad or Damian, please speak up and ask.
Yeah.
So when you won these tournaments, what have you won more tournaments on a specific bait than others?
Specific bait than others. Honestly, what was that?
I'm sorry, Damian. I was going to say where he's going is what's your confident bait? That's where he's heading.
Yeah, exactly. We've done a few podcasts together.
Honestly, I don't. I'll be honest. I don't have a confidence bait. I throw a lot of. I throw what seems to be working, and I I do mix in a lot of dual products just because you got to be a little different from the crowd. Most of the time, I am fishing what's working. What you hear everybody say is working. Say there's a lipless bite, right? So you'll be throwing what's working. Like if you're on Clear Lake, you're throwing an LV 500, which is a very notorious bait for Clear Lake. You're throwing an LV 500. Everybody's throwing it. You have to be throwing it, right? So you're throwing it for a long time. You gotta be a little different throwing that Duralis, and you're gonna get a lot of bites than that. There's not really a confidence bait for me. Of course, we all love throwing the frog and throwing a walking bait, a spook, or a Duralis pencil. We enjoy throwing all that stuff, but for me, I don't generally have a confidence bait.
It sounds like you throw a lot of hardware. Do you do any finesse fishing?
I do, but not necessarily. If they're biting that reaction stuff, I'm usually stuck on doing that reaction stuff.
I can see that. So do you do any drop shotting?
I do throw a lot of drop shotting, especially the last few years. On the California Delta, the drop shot has been a pretty big player for me, and it's just because it's been changing a lot. It's not like how it used to be, where you'd show up and throw whopper plopper at any point or any rocky bank and catch a 5-6 pounder. Now it's like you need to be a little bit more versatile. Throw that finesse, throw that rope worm or that drop shot, and usually those get you your big bites too.
So you do a little bit of everything, man. You fish the marsh, which is probably all shallow water. I know the marsh down in Louisiana is very shallow water, and you fish 60 feet deep in clear water. So, man, you sound like you're pretty versatile.
Yeah, I originally started fishing shallow, and then I started fishing deep is when we got really wrecked by this tournament angler where he was a boat angler. He came out and he fished deep and really opened my eyes about these deep water fish. And then really I started focusing more on that, and I learned a lot about that. So that deep stuff is fun. It's fun all, but you can also catch shallow fish, which is fun as well.
So any given day strategy, are you thinking, okay, 5 and now I'm going to chase a big one, or are you chasing big and just hoping you're getting 5?
It depends on the fishery. Say for we just fished Orville not too long ago. That was my first time fishing that. Like I'd never been there before. I just pulled up on tournament day, and I just got on the water, and immediately I noticed an area that had standing timber. Right, so first thing that came to my mind is go to standing timber. Wherever you got standing timber, even if the water temp is mid 50s, you can catch top water fish around there. And really, my game plan really is kind of making it up on the go. Is when you're fishing. A lot of times, for me personally, if I get stuck doing something, I don't tend to make those risks that really actually get you into the top 5. You got to really make those risks. So, of course, you want to shoot for 5, but if you know you can get 5 on the top water, you can just throw the top water all day.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
My goodness.
Different strategies, different players, but fisheries play an important role in that.
Right. So, like, for if you go to like the bass factor, right, Clear Lake, right, you're not looking for your limit. You're looking for 5 big ones right off the bat. That's the only way to do well. You got to look for 5 big ones.
Yeah.
So what is a big fish on Clear Lake?
A big fish on Clear Lake, It's gonna be a 20-inch fish, and for clear lake, a 20-inch fish is gonna be like about a 6 pounder. They're just so they have huge
Yeah.
shoulders. Yeah, they just have huge shoulders, and they're just a lot of meat and a lot of weight on them.
So what are they eating? Shad or?
They're eating everything in there. They're eating they're eating a lot of gills, and it's surprising too that last few years they've been really keen on really tiny bait fish. They're little silver side minnows, rather than your because we haven't had that much there wasn't that many shad during that time, so the fish were really keen on smaller bait fish.
And so they're keen on a smaller bait fish, and they're getting to be 6 pounds by the time they hit 20 inches. That's incredible. There must be a billion of those smaller bait fish in there.
Oh, there is but there's a lot of other things in there as well. There's they're constantly chewing gills and uh
Trout?
no, that lake doesn't have trout. That lake has
Okay. Because I know lakes that have trout, like even around Illinois, where they stock trout, like in the wintertime. No, they stock trout in the springtime. Those fish come in there and just pre-spawn. They just gobble them up and they get huge. It's exciting, Fishing a 25-acre lake and catch a 6-pounder. I mean, wow. And you're sitting there shoulder to shoulder, and everybody's fishing for trout. Oh, heck with trout. If there's going to be 6-pound bass in here, I can't see a 10-inch rainbow. That's bait.
Yeah, that's why there's 6-pound bass in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To catch a little bitty trout. No, I'm going to be using baits that big. Well, man, we wish you the best of luck, man.
Thank you.
Heck yeah, absolutely. I'm glad to meet you and glad to get your insight. I'm glad
Nice
to
to
know
meet you guys well.
Yeah, I'm glad to know there's another yak out there that's rigged almost exactly the same that I could just jump in and fish.
Well, I gotta give it to David Swinside. I'm gonna do a shout out to him right now. He gives us some really class A, interesting people that just know their stuff backwards and forwards.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You
Do you have any sponsors that you want to give a shout out to?
Yeah, I'd like to give a shout out to Duralis, Duralis, Garmin, Power Pole, as well as MB559 Fishing. Yeah, I'd like to thank those guys as well as Kayak City. They helped me out with my kayak and always help me out with my stuff I need for my kayak. And yeah, that'd be it. And I'd like to thank you guys for having me as well on the show. It was a really fun chat.
Yeah.
It started out interesting, yeah. Jeez.
Yeah, for the listeners that doesn't know, the watchers, there's storms right now, and Jay's dealing with tornadoes and power outages. So I'm glad we got through this podcast. We were just going to keep going without you, Jay, but
I don't let little things like tornadoes stop me from podcasting, man.
Yeah. Damian fishes through tornadoes. It's okay.
You kayak fish through tornadoes, Damian?
We don't got those here, so we're very fortunate.
Yeah, but you have something called earthquakes that cause tidal waves, so right up the California Delta. Yeah.
So I'm in Oklahoma. We have earthquakes here, and we have tornadoes. But what's it like? Have you ever been on the water during an earthquake?
I have not. No.
Okay, I didn't know if what are there little bitty ripples in the water? Cartoons, you wonder.
I've only experienced two earthquakes, and
that's what causes tsunamis is earthquakes.
So
interesting. Well, we have earthquakes because of oil fracking, but they say there's a fault line that runs through the middle of Oklahoma, and every now and then we have earthquakes, but we do get them, so it's interesting. Well, Damian, thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'd like to thank you, Damian, and I'd like to thank everybody for tuning in to the Bassin Magazine podcast, the Bassin Magazine, the official magazine of the Weekend Angler. Thank you very much, Damian, and thank you, everybody. Hey, thank you, Brad.
Thank you, guys.
And everybody have a great night.